All right, I will say good morning. And let's begin. Our shir this morning is dedicated by Gedalia and Anna Rosenblum in memory of Gedalia's father, Moshe Hershel ben Chaim ben Sion. And of course, by our Talmud Torah sponsors for the month of Kislev, Josh and Becca Friedman, Le'ilu Nishmas, Josh's father, Yisrael Yehuda ben Avchaim Rafael, Semi Malka Esther and Le'ilu Nishmas, their parents, Yitzchak Leib ben Aaron Cohen, Sarah Rachel Bas Baruch, and Hinda Bas Henech Ephraim. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, the Neshamas will have an Aliyah and the families in the Chama. And also with that, let us begin. Today's daf is Samech Aleph 61. We are picking up on the bottom of Samech Amud Beis at the two dots, 5 lines up from the bottom. So remember again, the Mishnah said, V'tolos zubazu. So remember again, in this particular Mishnah, you have 3 women sleeping in the same bed. So the Mishnah ended off by saying that halacha l'maisa tolos zu bezu. They can go ahead and literally attribute the stain to one another. Says the Gemara, what's the case? Tana abana keitza tolos zu bezu. What's the case of where they could go ahead and attribute the stain to one another? So ubra v'she'ena ubra. So let's say again, the Gemara illustrates this with 2 cases. Let's say one of the women is pregnant, one of the women is not pregnant. Tola ubra b'she'ena ubra. So ultimately, again, the pregnant woman will attribute the stain ultimately again to the woman who's not pregnant. Right? Right, so the woman is not pregnant. Meinika v'she'ena mika. Similarly, again, if one of the women is nursing, one of the women is not nursing. Tola melika b'melika. Tola meinika b'she'ena meinika. So ultimately, again, the nursing woman will attribute the stain ultimately again to the non-nursing woman. Zakina v'she'ena zakina. If you have an older woman again, which b'pashtus applies to a postmenopausal woman and a woman who is still menstruating. Tola zakina v'she'ena zakina. Good. Besula v'she'ena besula. So in this context, besula doesn't mean like we classically think about. Besula means a woman who has never bled yet. Right? She's a besula from damim. So ultimately, again, besula v'she'ena besula. Tola besula v'she'ena besula. So the idea very simply being, again, illustrating this with 2 cases. One of the women has a chazaka that she bleeds, the other does not. So the woman ultimately, again, who does not normally bleed, could attribute the stain ultimately to the woman who does. What about shtehen zakinos, shtehen besulos? What happens if both of the women are zakinos? Both of the women are besulos. Zohi sheshanino lo haya ru'uyos liros, roin ki'ilu top of samech aleph, roin ki'ilu riyos. So we'll say, obviously, in that case, even if both women are zakinos, both women are menikos. So we'll say, see, here's what I know. What do I know? That ultimately there's blood, right? And that the blood came from someone. So even though in this particular situation there's no one in particular to go ahead and attribute it to, and again, both of them have the personal status of not bleeding, but because we know that blood came from somewhere, ultimately, again, we treat them both as ru'uyos. Good. Says the Mishnah. Mishnah will say top of Samech Aleph Amud Aleph. Shalosh nashim sheyu shanis b'mita acha. So we'll say again, similar. Well, it sounds like the same case. We'll see how it's differentiated in the Gemara. 3 women sleeping in the same bed. V'nimtza dam tachas ha'emtzayis. If blood is found under the middle woman, kulan tmeos. Everyone is tamei. Everyone is tamei. And I will say, again, the logic being that what? The logic being that people move around in a bed. So if it's underneath the middle woman, the pashtus that could have come from anyone. Therefore, they're all tmeos. Tachas hapnimis. What happens if it's underneath the innermost woman? So it says, Rashi points out over here, so the assumption over here is that the bed is up against the wall. So the pnimis means the woman against the wall. So let's say find it by the woman against the wall. So shtaim ha-pnimios tmeos. So we'll say the 2 innermost women are tmeos. 2 innermost women being who? Center woman, and we'll call it wall woman. Right? So ultimately, again, the one next to the wall, the one next to her, the one in the center, they are both tmeos, because again, I will say the assumption is that what? That halacha l'maisa, people move around. So because again they move around, it's attributable to one of those 2. Next, v'achitzona tahora. But in that case, of course, the chitzona, the outermost woman, will be tahora. Tachas hachitzona. What happens if the blood is found underneath the outermost woman? So we'll say, so remember again, this refers to the woman furthest from the wall. Shtayim hachitzonos tmeos. V'apnimis tahora. In this case, going to say the two outermost women. So remember, who are the two outermost women? So that's the outermost woman, right? The woman farthest from the wall, and the center woman. Both of them will be Timeos. Vapinim is Torah, but the innermost woman, i.e. the woman next to the wall, she will be Tahora. So we'll say, so when is this true? Emasei, Bizman Sha'avru Derech Margalos Hamita. So we'll say, this is assuming that this is the case when all the women get on the bed by climbing on from the foot of the bed. So when they all get onto bed from the foot of the bed, that's when these halachos apply. Avalim avru derech aliyah. Let's say they're all coming onto the bed from the side of the bed, right? Then what? Kulan tameos. Because we're supposed to listen to this. If they're all coming up from the foot of the bed and each of them laying down in their respective places, then halacha lamaisa, their we'll call it range of influence on the bed is going to be limited. But if they're each coming on the side of the bed, that means each of them come in contact with a larger part of the bed. And in that case, again, when blood is found, the possibility is that it came from any one of them, no matter where it's found. Therefore, they're all tameos. But ka'achas me'avadim says tahora. What happens if one of them did a badika? After finding the blood, one of them did a badika and found that she is not bleeding. He tahora u'shtaim tameos. Ultimately, the one who did the badika, she will be tahora. The other two will be tameos. Bad kushtayim u'matzu tahoros. What happens if two women did badikos and both of them were found to be tahoros? So what's ta'alacha? Hein tahoros u'shlishis tameya. Then the two women who did the badikos will be tahoros, and ultimately again the third one will be tameya. Shlashtan u'matzo tahoros. Let's say all three women did a badika and all three of them came out clean. Then what is the halacha? Kulan tameos. Everyone is tamei. Which I will say again, we saw this principle already before. The logic being, there's blood, and that blood came from someone. So the inability to go ahead and attribute it to anyone specifically ultimately causes it to become a suffix on all of them. Amad daradoma. To what can this be compared? Legal tamei shinis ariv bein shnei galim tohorim. So we'll say this can be compared to as follows. If you can imagine, if you have a pile of produce or a pile of something, it doesn't really matter what it is, and inside of that, and what's the concern? I know that in one of those piles there was a kizayis of a corpse, mixed in with the pile. What happened? That pile got confused with two other piles. So we'll say, so now again, just to be clear, I knew for sure that one of the piles had a kizayis of a mason in there. That wasn't a suffix. The issue that happened over here is that pile now got mixed up with two other piles. So what's the halacha? So batko achas menumazutar hu taru shnaim temeim. So if I begin to check through the piles, I check pile number one. There's no kizayis of a mason there. That pile is tahar. The other two are temeim. Shnai, so the Gemara says, Shnaim temeim. Shnayim umatzutar. And if I check through two piles and they don't find any corpse flesh, then tahorin heim matzu tahorin heim torin ushlishi tamei. Then ultimately again the two piles will be tar. The third pile will be tamei. Shlashtan umatzu tahorin. What happens if I search through all three piles and ultimately again I can't find any flesh in it? Then what's talacha? Kulan tameim. Ultimately again all the piles will be considered tamei. Divrei Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir Omer. Kol davar shu b'chazkas tumah li'olam hu b'tumaso ad she'ivad lecha tumah heichan hu. Because Rabbi Meir's logic is like this: once you know that an item is tamei because of the presence of a davar hatumah, that status does not leave until when? Until you know definitively what happened with the tumah itself. So I'll say, for example, in this case over here, I know for sure that flesh from a corpse got mixed up with a pile of produce. That pile then got mixed up with other piles. I search through all of the piles, they're all going to be tamei until I know what? Until I know exactly what happened with that source of tumah. On the flip side, the Chachamim omrim, bodek ad shemagia l'sela o l'psula. The Chachamim say, listen, all you really need to do is what? Check the pile until you get down to the until you get down to the earth. The l'sela means to rock or to besula. We'll say karka besula means ground that was never overturned, right? Ground that was never plowed. So essentially the Rabbanan say, listen, search for it. If you can't find it, then what? It's not there. Now we'll see what the Chum essentially says. It's possible that an animal came along and took it, right? In other words, if you can't find it, it's not there. See, Rabbi Meir says, if you can't find it, you need to come up with an explanation as to what occurred. If you can't tell me exactly where it is, then everything has a presumed state of tumah. The Rabbanan say, no, if I look for it and it's not there, it just means it's not there. Well, the reason it's not there is irrelevant. Who cares why it's not there? Just lamaisa, it's not there. Says the Gemara. Let's analyze. So listen to this. If you'll notice again, we have two now contrasting Mishnayos, right? The Mishnah that we just read previously, which was the last Mishnah on Amud Beis, also spoke about Shalosh Nashim Shayu Yishenos B'mita Achos, V'nimtza Dam Tachas Achas Me'en, Kulan Tmeos. Right? The last Mishnah said 3 men are sleeping in a bed, blood is found underneath one of them, they are all Tmeos. That's the last Mishnah said. What did this Mishnah say? This Mishnah started getting into the distinctions between under whom it was found. So asks the Gemara, why is it that the previous Mishnah did not make any distinctions like this in terms of the location of the stain versus our Mishnah, which does? So says the Gemara, Rabbi Ami b'mishulavos. Our Mishnah is different. Rabbi say, why? Look at Rashi. Rabbi Abi Reisha b'shulavos tekufos udevukos yachad. In our case, in the Mishnah, ultimately, again, it's where the women are sleeping all very close to each other. Literally, tikufos means one next to the other, devukos attached to one another. Hilchach afilu nimtza tachas hapnimis ika l'sapuki nami b'chitzona. So I will say, ultimately, again, in the previous Mishnah, we're talking about over here where the women were sleeping very close to each other, right? And therefore, again, anywhere the stain is found, because they're sleeping so close to each other, therefore what? It's a constant suffix on all of them. Apparently, our Mishnah is not talking about that kind of case. Okay, but ka'achos. So let's remember again, the Mishnah then went on to discuss what happens if one does a badika, two do a badika, three do badika. So the Gemara says, Lama le'lemisnei lemazedoma. So let's remember again, the structure of the Mishnah was, the Mishnah gave the case of the three women, and then afterwards said, lemadavar to the case of the piles, right, that ultimately again had a little bit of corpse mixed into it and then went ahead and got mixed up with other piles. So the Gemara asks, why ultimately again do we need this additional case? Right? Why do you need that? To which the Gemara says, Haki kamar lahu, Rabbi Rabbanan. So this is what I remember saying to the Rabbanan. Maishna bedam de lo plagiso, or maishna begal de plagiso. So this is very interesting. Rabbi was saying to the Rabbanan, why is it in the case of blood, right, you don't disagree, right? Because remember again, there's no machlokes in the cases of the Mishnah, right? In the cases of the Mishnah, the Maisa, again, if all of them did bedikos, and even if they all come out to horos, what's the halacha? Ultimately, again, they're all tmeos. Yet, in the case of the three piles, there's a disagreement. Remember, why is it that you don't disagree in the case of the dam, but yet in the case of the gal, the piles, you do disagree? The Rabbanan will say as follows: Bishlam hasam ema orev natla. See, in the case of the piles, ultimately, with a little bit of corpse that got mixed in, there is a feasible explanation as to why there's nothing there. What's the feasible explanation? Right? What's the feasible explanation? A bird took it. Right? A bird took it. A rodent took it. There's a feasible explanation. Elahacha hay dam mehecha asa. Well, so here's the issue. Where did the blood come from? It must have come from one of the women. So it's granted, I understand that Lamai said they're all doing bedikos and they're all tohoros right now, but that blood came from someone. Tanya Rabbi Meir, Maise b'shikma shal kfar Saba shahayu machzikin batuma. Well, the Gemara tells us a couple of interesting stories over here. There was a shikma, a sycamore tree, in Kfar Saba. Shahayu machzikin batuma. So we'll say now what that means is that there was a chazaka, ultimately again, that there was a corpse buried there. There was tumah there at some point in time. Ubat kuvalo matzu. They checked, and they didn't find any corpses there. L'yamim, listen to this. Nashba baruach va'akarto. One time there was a very strong wind, and the wind blew and uprooted the tree. And when that occurred, v'nimtza gulgolos shalmeis tchuva lo be'ikaro. And they found skulls buried at the base of the tree. So Amrulo, they said to him, Misham Raya. So I'll say, so ultimately again, now remember again, they're saying this to Rabbi Meir, or Rabbi Meir is saying this. So you see from here that sometimes you could do a bedika, but yet not yield results. To which you're supposed to remember again, because what did the Rabbanan say in the Mishnah? The Rabbanan said in the Mishnah that Lamais, in the case of the 3 piles with the corpse mixed in, what do they say? Keep searching and searching and searching until you find something. And if you don't find anything, then what? Then Lamais. So Rabbi Meir is just saying sometimes here you could do a search, but lav dafka that the search is going to yield anything. To which the Gemara says, Amrullah misham raya. So they said to Rabbi Meir, that's your raya. So ima lo badku kol tzarcho. It must have been in that case what happened. They did not do a totally proper search, right? Who's to say that they actually searched properly over there? So the Gemara goes weiter. Tanya, Amar Rabbi Yossi, Maise b'mara shel shichin, shahu mechaskin batuma. There was another episode, ultimately again by a cave in Sichin, where one time again they assumed that there were graves in this cave. And ultimately, again, they checked, right? They checked in the cave for graves, but they couldn't find anything, even to the point that they got to earth that was as smooth as a nail, which means they're both saying it was never overturned. In other words, so nothing was buried there. And they still did not find any type of graves. So one time there was a rainstorm, and the workers went into the cave for shelter. And they started picking apart things with their hatchets. And they found again, literally a machteshes, like a crater, or literally means a mortar, filled with bones. So I'll say, see over here, this was even after they checked before, and yet they didn't find anything. Amrullah, the Rabbanan said back to Rabbi Sham Raya, we'll say just because people check doesn't mean they do a good job checking. So we'll say ultimately again the Rabbanan attribute this to the fact that the people who performed the first check ultimately did not check sufficiently. It was only a subsequent check that was sufficient. Okay, so we'll say, so the Gemara goes weiter now. So Tanya, Abba Shal Omer, another similar idea. Abba Shal says as follows. Abba Shal Omer, Maise besela beis choron she'machzikin batuma. There was once ultimately again an episode in Sela, literally the rock, the soil of Beis Choron, that they had a chazaka that there was tuma. V'lo yachlu chachamim livdok mipnei shahai semeru. Well, this is actually a fascinating case. So there was a story of a field in Beis Choron. Sela means like a field. Now Sela means rocky field, a rocky field in Beis Choron. That they had a chazaka that there were graves there. But the area was too vast for anyone to check, so they didn't know how to identify the graves in this area. This is fascinating. So v'haya sham zakin echad Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya shmo. There was an elder man there. His name was Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya. Amar lahem. So we'll say, listen to this incredible idea. So he says, I have an idea. Amar lahem heviu lo sadinin. Bring me sheets. Heviu lo sadinin. They brought him sheets. Usheran b'mayim. He soaked the sheets. Uparsan aleihem makom aleim. And what did he do? He spread out the sheets over the entire area of Suffolk. So a very large area. What was the chap? So he says like this: makom tara yavesh, makom tuma lach. He said like this: any area that is dry is tahar. Any area that is moist is tameh. What's the logic? So Rabbi said like this: any time that the soil is virgin soil and has never been overturned, the soil will not absorb. Any time that the soil has been tilled in some way, the soil will absorb. So what happens? So therefore the wet sheets are sitting on top of the soil. So remove the sheets. If the soil is dry, then ultimately again that means that's a tar area, no one was ever buried here. If the soil is moist, that is indicative of the fact, well, again I will say under normal circumstances that by itself does not have to be indicative, but the fact that they had a suffix in this situation over here tells us that Allah said that's where the graves were. What happens? Ubatku umatza bur gadol mali atzamos. And the Bible says, sure enough, in one of the wet areas they checked, and they found the mass grave. They found the pit that was filled with bones. So they must listen to this. Tana, hu abar shemile Yishmael ben Esanya chalalim. We'll say this was the pit that was filled with the corpses of people murdered by Yishmael ben Esanya d'chsiv V'habar asher hishlich Shem Yishmael es kol pigre anash masher hika biad Gedalia. Supposed to remember again, Yishmael ben Nisanya was the person who assassinated Gedalia ben Achikam. So remember again, this after the destruction of the first Beis Hamikdash, Gedalia ben Achikam was the governor of the Jews who remained in Eretz Yisrael. He himself was appointed by Nebuchadnezzar, by Nebuchadnezzar. And remember again, he is assassinated by a man by the name of Yishmael ben Nisanya. Now, after Yishmael ben Nisanya goes ahead and assassinates Gedalia, he also goes ahead and kills a whole bunch of other people and tries ultimately to make it look like that was Gedalia who ordered that. So the Gemara says, listen to this, that's what this says over. V'chi Gedalia Hargan? I don't understand, did Gedalia murder these people? V'alo Yishmael Hargan. It was Yishmael ben Nisanya who killed them. Ela mitoch shahayu lo lachosh le'itzas Yochanan ben Karach v'lo chash Ma'ala alav akasov kilu haragan. Both say it's actually an incredible story. So listen to this. So first of all, it says the Gemara is bothered by the pasuk. The pasuk says that this is the pit that Yishmael ben Nisanya threw all of the corpses are the people who were killed by Gedalia. Did Gedalia kill them? No, Gedalia didn't kill them. It was Yishmael ben Nisanya who killed all of these people. But listen to this. We'll translate the words and then we'll analyze what it means. But because Gedalia should have listened to the advice of Yochanan ben Korach, and he did not do so, so ultimately again, the pasuk almost blames Gedalia for the death of these people. I will say, what does this mean? So remember again, Yochanan ben Korach was the one who warned Gedalia that Yishmael ben Nisanya was coming to kill him. Gedalia did not want to accept Lashon Hara. He didn't want to accept Lashon Hara. And as we're going to see, Chazal fault Gedalia for not heeding the advice of this man Yochanan ben Korach. Ultimately, again, and because Gedalia didn't listen, and because Gedalia was not vigilant, not only did he lose his own life, but ultimately, again, the lives of many others were lost as well. To the point that, again, the pasuk puts liability ultimately on Gedalia ben Achikam. It's incredible. So the Gemara says a very important lesson comes out from this. Amar Rava, Hailish Nabisha. Did Rabbi say when a person hears Lashon Hara, Afa pi de kabuli lo mi boy. So ultimately, again, the Gemara says, ultimately, again, even though you're not allowed to be mekabel Lashon Hara, right? You can't accept it as truth. Nevertheless, mechash le mi boy. They both say sometimes, it's actually quite interesting, sometimes as much as you can't be makabel it, sometimes you just have to be a bit vigilant about it. So if someone gives you information, so you can't be makabel it as truth, but at the same time, if it's information that ultimately, again, potentially poses some type of danger, ultimately you can't be fully dismissive of it as well. So Gemara gives examples of this. Hano b'nei Galilah, dinafek alei kala dekatel nafsha. So I will say there were these people, these Jews from the Galilee, and kind of rumors were circulated about them that they killed someone. So we'll say, so now they killed someone and they're wanted by the authorities for killing someone. So what happened? The Gemara says, Rabbi Tarfon. So they came to Rabbi Tarfon, Amrulei, Limitrin Mar. So they came to Rabbi Tarfon and said, Rabbi, hide us. They wanted Rabbi Tarfon to hide them from the authorities. Amrlahu, Hechi Navis. Rabbi Tarfon said, what should I do? Ilo amtirinchu chazu yasaichu. So we'll say, Rabbi Tarfon says like this, if I don't hide you, the authorities will find you and kill you. Samtraichu, but if I hide you, ha'am rabbanan, hai lishnabisha, afa gavdele kabuli lo mi boy, mechash le mi boy. Rabbi Tarfon said at the same time, I have to be choshish that what? Maybe you did kill someone, right? Meaning, as much as I can't be makabel, ultimately, again, the Lashon Hara, I also have to be vigilant. And so to hide you when you might be murderers, ultimately, again, maybe going ahead and putting myself in some type of danger. So does Rabbi Tarfon say to them, Zil asu tamar nafsheichu. So we'll say, literally translated, what it sounds like is Rabbi Tarfon says, go hide yourselves. Now the truth is, the Maharsha and others point out that Rabbi Tarfon was saying, I'll tell you where to hide, but I'm not going to go ahead and oversee the arrangements for your hiding. So we'll say, if you look at Rashi says there's something very amazing. There's mechash le mi bai v'shema haragtem v'asra lahatzil eschem. So we'll say what Rashi says over here is as follows. Rabbi Tarfon's concern was not about putting himself in mortal danger. Rabbi Tarfon was saying, if you guys killed someone and you're wanted by the government, ultimately for killing someone, I have no right to shield you from the law. Meaning the law of Dina de Malchus, Dina, the law of the land is the land. And Rabbi Tarfon says, if you really committed a capital crime, if you really did this, then I have no right to shield you from the government. If you look at Tosis says over here something very interesting. Amtrinchu hamra abaran hailish nabisha perish v'kontras shema haraktem va'asu la'atzilchem. So we'll say, so Rashi's idea is that Rabbi Tarfon is saying is if you really are murderers, I have no right to shield you from the long arm of the law. Right? Then ultimately again you deserve what it is that is coming to you. Ubeshiltos ravachem if shema haraktem bim'atmin eschem chayavtem rashi lemelech. So we'll say, so again, Kurtosis expounds on this. He says that ultimately it could be that I'm going to get in trouble with the government. Rabbi say, so this is really fascinating because it seems to Rabbi Tarfon is not concerned that maybe you guys are murderers and you're going to kill me. Rabbi Tarfon is concerned that maybe you are murderers and in which case I'd be aiding and abetting criminals. Which Rabbi says, if we don't have time to get into this topic, Rabbi say, but this is very important because sometimes people fundamentally misunderstand the concept of Masira. Right? We sometimes that word is used very loosely. That whenever ultimately again you involve the authorities with matter concerning Jews, that's called Masira. That's not called Masira. If someone breaks the law and the law, some appendages of law enforcement get involved, that's not being Moser a Jew. Chas v'shalom. Now again, there are technical issues. There are halachas. I'm just pointing out over here. You see that Rabbi Tarfon himself is concerned. According to, and Rashi is more explicit. If you broke the law, I'm not going to shield you. If you broke the law, ultimately, again, then what the government wants to do to you, you deserve. So just the fascinating, again, say you'll put it on the list, maybe on the bus to death to the Siyam Hashas of a couple hours. We'll go through some of these sugyas. But again, it's quite an incredible idea. And anyway, Gemara goes weiter. So we'll say, so first of all, this concept also seems to be a very amorphous one, which is this concept that I can't be mekabel lashon hara, but yet what? I have to be somewhat attentive to it. I say I can't be mekabel. That's also mekabel means I don't accept it as truth. But I must be vigilant regarding this piece of information. And I will say, lest you think that ultimately, again, this is just like a nice concept. You see that the pasuk literally holds Gedalia ben Achikam liable for the murder of innocent people because someone gave him a piece of information and he failed to even heed it in some way. You don't want to believe that Shmuel ben Asanya is a murderer, that's fine. But when someone tells you that someone is coming to kill you, you do have to take it into account. You do have to be vigilant with that piece of information. The Gemara goes weiter. Some other examples of this. Moshe Altira. So remember again, Akash Baruch Hu says to Moshe Rabbeinu, do not be afraid. Ultimately, again, this is talking about Og, right? Do not be afraid ultimately when you go to fight against Og. So the Gemara says, Michti, Sichon va'og achi havu. Sichon and Og were brothers. The Amar Sichon va'og b'nei achia bar sham chazai havu. Maishna mi Og de kamistafi, Maishna Sichon de lo kamistafi. So it's very interesting. When Moshe Rabbeinu goes to war against Sichon, it doesn't appear that Moshe Rabbeinu had any specific type of fear. Yet when he goes to war against Og, he does have fear. To the point that Akash Baruch Hu has to tell him, Al Tira. We'll say, meaning when God, Pasuk never says that Moshe Rabbeinu has fear, but the fact that what? The fact that the Pasuk says, that God says to Moshe, Al Tira, don't be afraid, indicates to us what? That Moshe Rabbeinu was afraid. Amar Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Yochai, Mitshuvaso shel osa tzadik af teodea ma haya balibo. So we'll say from the tshuva, from the response, right, of the tzaddik, right, ultimately again we see what was in his heart. So we'll say what Rashi points out from the response that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had to give to the tzaddik. The fact that God had to tell Moshe, Al Tira, don't be afraid, tells us that he was afraid. So I'll say what was wrong. Amar Shema Tamo Lo Zechos Shel Avram Avinu. Maybe the schos of Avram ultimately again will sustain. What was the schos? Shenemar Vayavo Apol Vayagi Avram Ivri. The survivor came and told Avram Avinu. So remember again, this is a reference to the war of the four kings against the five, where Og came and told Avram that Lot was taken captive. This sparked Avram Avinu's involvement in that war. This was Og ultimately again who went ahead and was survived from the Dor HaMabul. So the idea being over here that ultimately again because Og came and gave Avram Avinu this information, therefore what? Therefore again Moshe Rabbeinu was concerned that maybe this zuchus will ultimately allow Og to repel Klal Yisrael. Good. Tan Rabbanon, Beged Sha'avar Bo Kasem, Ma'avir Alav Shiva Samanim U'Vatlam. So we'll say if you have a beged, it's actually an interesting case. If you have a beged, a garment, and a kesem was lost. I was say, what does that mean? So I have a beged, the beged has a kesem, but then something happens that let's say for example the beged falls into water, right? And therefore again the water obliterates the kesem, or the beged falls into a pool of animal blood. So now what happens? So now again the garment is caked in blood, but lamaisa again animal blood is not a problem. So I don't know where the kesem is on the garment, right? And I will say we will see ultimately again. We haven't gotten to this yet, but we'll see in the next Mishnah. I don't know if it's the next Mishnah or the next couple of Mishnahs. Yeah, next Mishnah. Bottom of days that ultimately again a kesem can only be removed from the garment if it goes through a cleaning process with 7 different items. Now my problem is I don't know where the kesem is. So what do I do? So we'll say, so what do? You just wash the garment anyway with these seven herbs, which we'll discuss in tomorrow's daf. Umevatlo. And ultimately again this goes ahead and is mevatl the kesem. Rabbi Shmuel says, what do you do? Amud Beis, Botko Shchunos. You go ahead and you check the garment neighborhood by neighborhood. Well, again, we'll see what that means in just. Look at Rashi. He says, "Kol shalosh etzbos levad." You check the garments in 3 finger breadth pieces. So essentially, what you do is you meticulously examine the garment 3 finger breadths at a time, and you will find the kesem. Avdu bo shechvas zera. So let's say you have a beged, ultimately again on which there is shechvas zera, and now what happens? I don't know where the shechvas zera is, so what happens? It depends on the beged. Chadash, if it's a new beged, both go b'machat. Then you could check it with a needle. We'll say, look at Rashi, b'machat, makom zera kasha, v'amachat misakev likanispa. So we'll say in general again, so the place where the zera is, that part of the garment becomes hardened, and therefore again the needle can't get through it, as opposed to the parts that are not affected by shechvas zera, so the needle ultimately will go through. Shachok, what happens if it's an older garment? So we'll say if it's an older garment, this process ultimately won't work. So what do you do? So Rashi says over here, Shachok, bot go bechama. So if it's, then you check it against the sun, right? And if you check it against it, we'll say the idea being that the area where the shechvas zera is, the sun does not come through the garment in the same way. Tana. By the way, the neighborhood that we're speaking about, right? The neighborhood ultimately again is 3 finger breadths. So when we said before that you check the beged, shchunos, it means that you check it at pieces of 3 finger breadths each. Next, Tan Rabbanon, beged sha'avar bo kilayim. Was another interesting case. Let's say you have a garment and you lost kilayim in it. Now, you'll say to yourself, how do you lose kilayim in a beged? It's actually very interesting. Look at Rashi. Shavar bo kilayim. Shem haya makir chut hatzemer bebeged apishtan. No skovachash. Well, listen, it's very simple. So what do I have? I have a linen garment, and I know that there was a thread of wool that was mixed into that garment. So we'll say on a very simple level, if you can identify the thread, what do you do? Pull it out. Right? And Gamarnu, we're good. The issue over here is that thread got lost in the garment. So I now don't know where the thread is. So what do I do with this garment? So the Brisa says, so you can't sell it to a Gentile. I will say, out of a concern that what's going to happen, the Gentile may then subsequently what? Sell it to a Jew, and it's shatnez. Nor can you go ahead and make it into a saddle blanket, right? A saddle blanket for your donkey. So we'll say now what's the concern over there? So we'll go ahead and we'll see this later on. But the concern with the mardas is that sometimes people would take a patch of their saddle blanket to patch up their clothing. So the concern over here is that if this has shatnez mixed in, you may come to use this as a patch for your clothing, and that's problematic. This is incredible. tachrichin lemeis. We'll say, what can you use it for? Burial shrouds. Burial. You can make tachrichin out of it. So the Gemara will say, really? Amar Rav Yossi is incredible. Zos omeres mitzvos betelos liasid lavo. This means that what? That apparently there's no mitzvos la'asid lavo. Now what is this saying? This is not talking about when you're dead. Obviously, when you're dead, there's no mitzvos. La'asid lavo means what? In the Messianic era, when there is tchias hamesim. We'll say when there's tchias hamesim, what are you dressed in? You're dressed in your tachrichin. So we'll say, the Gemara says something absolutely amazing, which is that lemaisa, you're telling me now that you could bury a corpse in tachrichin that have shatnez. Oh, Mashiach is going to come. There's going to be a resurrection of the tchias hamesim, which means what? That when I wake up, I'm going to be wearing shatnez. I'm going to wear shatnez. So we'll say, this must mean that what? That there's no mitzvos in the Messianic era. Amar le Abaye, v'yitem Rav Dimi, v'am Rav Mani, am Rav Yanai, lo shanu ela lesapto, aval kovro aser. No. We'll say, when did we say that you could use tachrichim with shatnez, ultimately again for a corpse? Those are the tachrichim during Hesped, during the Levaya. But when it comes actually time to bury the corpse, you cannot use shatnez tachrichim. Amar le lavit mar la Rabbi Yochanan afilu kovro. It's not true. Rabbi Yochanan said that you could even go ahead and use shatnez, even shatnez begadim, ultimately again to go ahead and bury him. So I'll say Rabbi Yochanan, tell me that Rabbi Yochanan, because Rabbi Yochanan says, "My dichsev b'meisim chavshi." Rabbi say, what is the meaning of the pasuk in Tehillim when it says, literally again, b'meisim chavshi, the dead are free. Kevan shemeis adam naaseh chavshi min hamitzvos. Rabbi say, because what is the teaching? As soon as a person dies, they become free from mitzvos. So Rabbi Yochanan is of the opinion, therefore, that halacha l'maisa, we need not be concerned with any halachic considerations. Ultimately, again, when burying the dead. In other words, that if you want to bury someone in shatnez tachrichim, ultimately, again, that is totally fine. That is sort of, what's going to happen by tchias hamesim? So apparently, Rabbi Yochanan doesn't address that, right? All Rabbi Yochanan addresses really is that when you're dead, there's no chiyuv in mitzvahs. Therefore, you can be buried in shatnez. What does he do with tchias hamesim? Doesn't seem to be clear. So we'll say, we don't do this today, meaning we bury just in regular linen shrouds, linen tachrichim, not shatnez. But I'll tell you where this does come up. So we'll say this does come up is that ultimately often a mace is buried in his talus, right? What do we do with the talus before the mace? We saw this in Moed Katan. What do you do with the talus? You cut off the corner, right? So there's a whole discussion over here regarding burying a mace in his talus if he didn't observe the mitzvah of tzitzis. If he did observe the mitzvah of tzitzis, do we passel the tzitzis? The mace is passel. So there's a whole discussion. So essentially, what we do over here is, because there would be a concern ultimately again with burying a mace in a four-cornered garment, ultimately again it doesn't have tzitzis, we cut off one of the garments, one of the corners. Right? So what this does is, this shows that the mace is chavshi min ha-mitzvos, he has no obligations, but at the same time we don't bury him in a four-cornered garment that doesn't have tzitzis. Okay, so it does come up. Again, what's going to happen with tchias hamesim? Emir Hashem, we will find out Bekarov. I'm sorry? He's gonna no. So you have to understand. So whenever we bury someone, the assumption is that tchias hamesim is going to occur very soon, right? That's the amuna that we always bury with. So all right. So see, it's saying, what does it matter? Everything decomposes. No, because my achakila b'chol yom sheyavo. The tchias hamesim is going to happen today. Mir Hashem says, Amra Rafram bar Papa Amra Chista. So I'll say same idea. And this is a fascinating case where I have a beged that has shatnez in it, but the shatnez gets lost. So what's the halacha? Tsova umutter. This is incredible. Here's a fascinating idea. Dye the beged. So apparently Rabbi say dye doesn't take as well to linen as it does to wool. So ultimately, again, the wool, meaning you'll be able to tell which is wool and which is linen. And therefore, by definition, what you could do is you could just pull out, we'll call it the alien thread. Amalei Rava l'Rafram bar Papa. So Rava said to Rafram bar Papa, Minalei l'Sabaha. From where do you know this? Amalei Masnisinhi. He said the truth is, this is a Mishnah, this nan. Bodik ad shemagia l'Sela. Ultimately, I must remember again, this was the pile that has some of the corpse mixed in. So what do? You check the pile until you get to the earth. V'ileka. And if you can't find anything there, Ema orev natla, must be that a raven went ahead and took the flesh. Hachinami, so too we see over here. Imra v'kisna bahadadi lo salik lehu tziva. V'chevan de lo yidia ema minsar nasa. So it's actually quite fascinating. Here's what we know. We know that dye does not take to wool and to linen in the same way. So therefore there should be a discernible difference. And if there is no discernible difference, we'll say, then what does that mean? What does that mean? That the illegal thread was removed. That's what it means. Meaning, so if the dye takes equally to the entire beged, that is indicative that it must say that the illegal thread was in fact removed. Incredible. Amar Rav Acha Rav Yeva Mishvei Dermar Zutra Haiman Derami Chuta de Kisna Beglima de Amra V'Naske V'Lo Yada Inasik Ilo Nasik. So we'll say what happened. So let's say someone went ahead and put a linen thread inside of a woolen garment. V'Naske, he then pulled it out. But what happened? V'Lo Yada Inasik Ilo Nasik Shapir. Right? I'm sorry, V'ilo Nasik. So I'll say, but he's not sure exactly, was it fully pulled out, was it not fully pulled out? So what's the halacha? Shapir dami, it's okay. Meaning midaraisa, shapir dami midaraisa. I'm sorry, shapir dami. Ultimately, again, the beged is okay. My time, what's the reason? Midaraisa, my time, midaraisa shatnis ksiv. They're both saying, in order for something to be shatnis midaraisa, here's what has to happen. Ad shua tavai venuz. So we'll say, interestingly enough, the Gemara here suggests that shatniz is a contraction of three words, right? Shua, tave, and nuz, which means literally smoothed, spun, and woven. Which means we'll say that for shatniz da'oraisa, a thread has to really be fully embedded in the garment. It has to be, again, smoothed, spun, and woven. So we'll say in a case like this over here, where you have a thread that is inserted, that is not fully integrated into the garment. So I'm not sure, did I take it out, did I not take it out? So l'maisa, again, mid-da'oraisa, that's not shatnis. Mid-da'oraisa, it's not shatnis. V'rabbanon hu de gazrube, Shabbos saying it's the Rabbanon ultimately, again, who are gozer on any type of garment like this. V'chevan de lo yad de inaske shari. So we'll say essentially, what do I have over here? I have a suffix d'Rabbanon. I have a suffix d'Rabbanan, and because I have a suffix d'Rabbanan, ultimately, again, suffix d'Rabbanan is lakula. Therefore, if you're not sure, was it fully taken out or not, you can still wear the beged. So we'll stop over here for today. We're going to pick up Emir Hashem with this fascinating shatnez discussion. Emir Hashem tomorrow. Shkoyach.